Take us through the key findings.
Well, both consumer prices and producer prices came in less than expected, Haslinda. We know that on the consumer side of things, food prices have been falling, especially pork prices. So that's obviously going to bring down the consumer inflation story there, even as prices for energy and oil. China's the biggest oil importer, even as those prices go up. On the producer side of things, the easing commodity prices brought producer prices back there to about 9.1%. That will take pressure off factories, of course, who had been struggling with this high cost base through much of last year. When you take it together, it does suggest there is more room now for the policymakers to go ahead and support their economy, to tip more money in without worrying about inflation pressures. And that's a pretty divergent place to be when you compare China to where the US is at right now.
And what about this G20 finance ministers meeting taking place? Also central bankers there in Indonesia. What can we look forward to from that?
Well, Rish, it's their first meeting of the year, the central bankers and the finance ministers. It'll be a mix of virtual and in person. And really, I think the big thing to think about is how different the agenda is. When they last met in October, the story was all about transitory inflation. The big focus was on an international tax agreement. And now here we are just a few months later, and these officials from emerging and developed economies are staring down the barrel of a very aggressive Fed rate hiking cycle. Other economies in the emerging world having to hike aggressively as well. Likewise, some in the developed world. The story is about inflation, how widespread will it become, and what can they do to tackle that while managing a soft landing. There are other issues on the agenda, of course, as well. Tax is still there, sustainable finance is still there, but you'd have to say the big takeaway coming out of it will be what are their thoughts about how they're going to navigate the pandemic and how are they going to manage a soft landing without tightening interest rates too much.